right, hey everybody, welcome to Chris Anderson Comics. We have a special guest today. We are talking to Rocko Jerome, writer and producer of Ghost Agents. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. I'm very excited to do this, and I'm very proud of the success that you've been having with your podcast here. This is cool. It's well deserved, and I've watched a few of them, and very insightful stuff, and a lot of great things that you've been doing here.
Well, thanks. They've been a lot of fun, and it's just talking to creators about the stuff that we love, and how can that not be exciting to watch and listen to? So
Yeah, man. Exactly.
I mean, it seemed like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, makes sense to me, man. Makes sense to me. You have been a very important figure in our little comics making scene for a long time. I don't know if Image Grand Design would have gotten finished without you, to be honest. You've always been not only the work that you do is very good, and the way that you've always been willing to do what it takes to get a project finished, but also the example that you sort of set. The fact that you've always been kind of the big man on campus in terms of your success and the things that you're able to do. It's certainly helped me with not only with finishing Image Grand Design, but also making Ghost Agents a thing, like we've talked about before. If not for you doing the work on the first finished Ghost Agents comic, I don't know that ball would have been rolling. And it was also your idea to do Kickstarter campaigns, which was something that I don't know if Eli Schwab, the publisher of Cosmic Line and my partner in all these endeavors, and I would have done that if not for your nudge. Whenever Chris Anderson says that we should do or not do something, we take it seriously. So,
oh man. Well, I appreciate that. I feel like what the things that I did were very, very small in comparison to, everything that you guys did. I mean, this is your brainchild. And so, you and all the other creators, had to come together to make this amazing piece of work.
Well, thank you very much.
The one in front of us is just one of, well, now will be 3 volumes like this.
That's correct. Yeah, we're calling it the Trilogy of Treasuries. The one that we're currently campaigning on is Ghost Agents / Metropolis. We got a long way to go before we hit the goal on that. But this will be 3 big treasury books full of art from up-and-coming artists and people who, in some cases, have never been published before. In some cases, have never been paid before now. And it's a really big deal. So ghostagents.net is the easiest way to go to find the link to the Kickstarter. I'm sure the link will be here on the video someplace as well.
Indeed.
And I'm very proud of it. Metropolis, Fritz Lang's Metropolis is now in the public domain. So it's a flip book where it's this comic on this side, you flip it over upside down, it's another comic on the other. So Ghost Agents material on one side, Metropolis material on the other. The Ghost Agents material has your cover from you on it. There's a total of 29 artists doing short stories throughout the book. It's 150 pages, and I think seeing is believing. If you go and look at it, you will see why you probably want this if you're into comics and you're into these types of comics. And the pertinent thing about what we're talking about today, this Ghost Agents Apocalyptico, which was the first treasury we put out. It was a collection of books that we'd previously done. We've since done all new material in the following 2. This will no longer be available in this treasury format anywhere online from us after this Kickstarter campaign. This Kickstarter campaign is your last chance to get Ghost Agents Apocalyptico, the book that we're going to look at today, in this newsprint treasury format. It's going to come out as a trade paperback. That means that the only way to get the final remaining few copies of the treasury that we have are either through this current Kickstarter campaign or to find one of us in person at a convention or something where we might have the book. They're in very limited numbers at this point. So if you're seeing this book we're about to go into, if you're impressed by it and you want to get it, this is your last chance to get it.
Yeah, and I have to say that if you are interested in getting it, don't wait at all. Don't hesitate, because this thing, when I do conventions, I usually take a couple of them with me, and they're gone like that. They just fly right off the shelf, because first of all, like you said, they're treasury size, so they're larger and they stand out. But then people get a hold of them and they go, "Oh, what's this?" And they go, "Ooh," and they start feeling it, and then they open it up and they feel that it is, newsprint, and it just feels like it's just a tactile sensation you won't be able to get by watching it from a screen. Once you have it in your hand, you'll know that this is almost like a piece of pop art. Really it is.
That's the intention. Yes,
And it's
absolutely.
something. It's really something special, and to add to anybody's collection. To be quite honest with you, I don't have the second volume of this. I haven't been able to. I haven't seen Eli since to grab one. But
Yeah,
this is the
you got
first
'em.
one, and oh, there we go.
Yeah, this one is called
Yeah.
Ghost Agents Crimson Reckoning. You'll
Uh-huh.
see that on the backside of Ghost Agents Apocalyptico. That's where it says Apocalyptico. So what we're doing is having the covers all just say Ghost Agents, and
Yeah.
then to figure out which volume it is, you look at the back. And these things are
So
designed to all stand on their own. You can read them in any order. The short stories are all jumping around in time anyway. You can really, really do this however you want to. It's not something where it's pedantically placed in such a way. But I think if you want one, you probably do want them all.
I would agree with that 100%, especially because of the sort of anthology nature of it, in that it's different. You get a lot of different visions. Even though you wrote all the stories, you get a lot of different visions coming from all the visuals with the artists that are involved in it.
Yeah,
So I'll flip it open. What's that?
I call myself the writer producer of this thing.
Yeah.
Because I think of it
Yeah.
in terms of like filmmaking, right? It's often
Yeah,
been
kinda.
said that comic art it's like an unlimited special effects budget. I don't know who first said that. It was probably Jim Shooter or somebody like that. Because the artist can draw anything. I think of it as being that the artist is like the director, the cinematographer, the special effects, every actor. Once it goes into the hands of the artist, it's largely theirs to do what they will with it. And I'm very, very particular about certain characters and certain story beats. And then other things I just completely let go of and let whoever else have their time with it.
Right. So Barry Tan did the cover of this one.
Barry Tan, fantastic artist, sort of in the vein of a Bruce Timm or a Darwin Cook, a man who is in Singapore. He's a Singaporean. And his work is just fantastic. I'm very fortunate to get to work with all the different people that I work with. Barry Tan especially is like, this is the sort of art style that I really, really love. And it's just perfect. The logo there was created by Sam J. Royale, who also
did the back cover.
He did indeed. Yeah. Yep. That's him. And that skull logo we have used quite a bit in a lot of different things. We've got T-shirts, buttons, stickers, posters. You name it. It's like Batman 1989 with Ghost Agents over here. You can get anything. It's fantastic.
Love it. And so you got the very first inside cover of it kind of tells a story of how the Ghost Agents started, right?
Yeah, it's Chris Faison, who does a tremendous job with a lot of different types of art styles, but he's particularly good, I feel, at drawing real people. So I wanted to have a drawing of Kennedy and Howard Hughes on the inside of this, and I knew that he would hit it directly on the head.
It's a difficult book to get all in shot.
It is, yeah, right. It's a big boy.
Do my best.
Yeah.
And then we open right away with a story that I drew. We went with color scheme from a very limited palette, from sort of inspired by Foom, right?
Right.
You're a big Foom fan.
Yeah, that's what do they call that? There's a word for that type of printing where it's limited colors. I can't.
I don't know what the
mimeograph
is. Oh, yes. Okay.
Trying to sort of recreate that. I'm a big believer that if you can't do it with a limited palette, it's not doable, right? I always feel like the leaning into the artistic impulses of those types of things is the way to go to kind of go by the rule of cool. If it ends up looking cool to me, then I'm going to be happy with it. And this, yeah, there was another Ghost Agent script that Craig C.K. was working on that later became the Max Hallman stuff, which has bore a action figure that you can actually get in this current campaign, if there's any left by the time people see this
Nice.
Max Hallman action figure. Craig's work. But while he was working on that or on other projects, you were nice enough to ask me if there's anything that I wanted to work on for Wizard 2, Wizard with an E. And I said yes. And I wanted to go ahead and spin off of that. So this character, Donna Prentice, became the subject of the very first finished Ghost Agent story.
Yeah, this was a fun one to work on. I got to play around with some lettering and things like that. I did some collage in it. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, very cool.
And this
Kirby-esque even.
Yeah, and this super limited palette style so Foom was a like Marvel fan magazine.
Yeah, Friends of Old Marvel.
Yeah, and that
Early
it was
70s.
published in the early 70s.
Early 70s. The first 4 were produced by Jim Steranko.
Okay.
Then he got frustrated with the process, and he went on to start Media Scene magazine, which became Preview eventually, and he made a lot of money doing that. Yeah, they always would be like 1 or 2 colors. So like they had like a red and blue issue, so that was very Spider-Man heavy, and they had a green and purple issue, so that was Hulk and like Green Goblin, right? And everything else they would just leave uncolored was sort of the way that they would do it. I love the effect of that. I think that stuff is so interesting. And, it's really Brian Eno had a great quote that I'll sort of butcher about how we always become really fascinated and in love with the limitations of the previous iterations of things after we don't have to be subject to them anymore. Like once we don't have to do things mimeograph, we miss it, you miss vinyl, you don't have it anymore.
Sure.
That sort of thing. So maybe it's a case of that, but I just think it looks awesome and I love the presentation of it. One thing that I'll say about the story that we did there was that I followed an impulse that I have since tried to abandon, which was when you turn the art in, you drew the script. And then I was like, oh, I need to get more words in here. There's not enough representation of me here. I need to add some stuff. And I don't know if much of anything that I added was necessary. It's sort of looking back now, it's like, I'm proud of my pithy sort of pulpy text that I added here, but I don't know if it was necessary. The pictures did a perfectly good job of telling the story.
Well, it's not super verbose.
Thanks.
And it's not telling you what you're seeing. So so it's effective. It works. It works.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I've since then leaned off that, and I think we'll see that as we go through the book here.
There's more Craig C.K. work, right?
Yep. This is pure exposition here. A lot of this is here because it's important elsewhere to establish like what these watches are like. You'll notice that watch is basically my watch too.
Oh yeah. It is.
There's a lot of me in this.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works.
So this is here's a Barry Tan story.
Barry Tan, and one of the fun things about this is that this was done for one of the Image tribute bootleg books that came after Image Grand Design. I found Barry Tan online. He was talking about how he wanted to do something with that. So these were originally 1963 characters. Fast forwarded to 1969, I think, in this case. And it worked for that. And then I thought, well, why can't we just change the names and change some details around? The same way the Shadow became Batman and Superman became Captain Marvel and Flash Gordon became Star Wars. And that was our approach to this, was to just make it our own. The black light colors in this I adore them.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's really something. It's really something. I love the way that these turn out.
And now we go to a Ben Perkins story here.
Yeah, Ben Perkins here. This is an awesome one. It's as you can tell, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill was an inspiration for this.
Absolutely.
The main thing where I have a hand in the production of the pages and the art itself, and have some input on, is always in the coloring.
Mm-hmm.
So like on those pages previous, I said I want blue to be the past, you know, where we're flashing back to do a little bit of exposition and establishing what we're talking about here. And so the blue panels at the top, and then the red and black at the bottom are meant to illustrate the real coming danger of what we're going to get into in the back half of the story.
Sure.
So very cool. This mutation panel, this long panel at the bottom there. I was like, I with Ben in particular, I feel like he's a person who has a real visceral understanding of the world, which I feel like I do too. And so my big thing with him was to be like, okay, I want you to draw something really disturbing. I want when people to look at it to feel like it's like a living nightmare. I want it to trigger bad memories. I want it to feel like the kind of thing that would just frighten a child without them being able to really put their finger on why it's scary. And I pushed back a few times on it, which I don't usually do with artists. Usually with artists, I'm just like, that's great, you know, whatever your interpretation is fine. But with this in particular, I was like, I want this to, I know you can do this. I want you to make this freakier. And I think he did it. I mean, it's got a feeling of like, you know, when you look at like raw hamburger wrapped in plastic at the grocery, and it's the guy's eye, and you've got, you know, it's sort of the, you know, the very, very almost sexual kind of a vibe, but it's destruction. It's a person being unmade, you know?
Yeah. And then the double line with the coloring sort of blurs it a bit, you know, to throw you off even more.
Right. Yeah. Like if you really look at this long panel, I don't even know how else to describe it. It's just like, man, what the hell, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah. Yeah, I did great work. These were new pages for the Treasury too. I had a little pushback from people who were a little bit confused about what actually happened here in the story. And since we're still sort of meeting Donna in this, I felt it was important to clarify. People were like, well, did Donna become a monster? Like, what happened here? And it's like, well, we need to explain that a little bit better. So these were actually pages that are made specifically for the Treasury. These stories were originally appeared in Ghost Agents 1, 2, and 3, which we've abandoned that whole idea so that we can lean into this.
Right, because these are originally released in single, like three single issues.
Yes, Apocalyptico was. Yes, it's important.
Right. Yeah, right. Because and then you went straight to the Treasuries after that.
Yes, yeah. The next two Treasuries are original material. Jason Forster here with this thing. I wanted this this page to look like almost like a cave painting or some sort of a you know, like a tome or something. And
yeah, it's very helter skelter, you know.
Yeah, I always try to lean into the styles of what somebody is. You know, it's like don't ask somebody who's into that to like draw a, you know, a 12-page thing with a bunch of small panels and stuff. Like let that guy lean into what his, you know, head lopper kind of Landgraf style kind of a thing is. And
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's what I like to do. Don't try to get Metallica to write a ballad, you know.
It's a good challenge. Get them to write get Metallica to write like a you know, modern pop song.
Yeah, Taylor Swift type number.
Yeah, and then get Taylor Swift to do a Metallica song. It might be an interesting exercise.
Yeah, Adam
so
Lemna.
You have Adam Lemna.
Yeah, and this is Clutch Quartermain, the character who appeared in the Barry Tan story. I like that I don't know if this was deliberate, but he made him look like one of those British marionette shows.
Yes.
Like the head is sized in such a way that this feels to me
Thunderbirds and all those.
Yeah, like that's what it feels like to me. And I think that's really cool. Super
It really does. Yeah, that's great.
So this guy enters the netherworld on purpose because G.H.O.S.T needed somebody to do it, and he was sick of being alive because he kept getting turned down by May-Zero. So he leaps into the underworld, or the netherworld rather, which is kind of like our version of like a trippy hell that portals are ripped open by nuclear explosions, basically. So this guy volunteers to do this to himself, and it's really kind of just an excuse to do some trippy ass, Kirby-esque, weird, whacked out stuff.
Yeah, Adam does a really good job with that.
Yeah, and this is what I requested.
Adam did a book called Relic Hunter that we did a video on, and then he did another episode with us on Savage Sword of Conan #4. And man,
nice.
that episode, I'm getting more comments on that than anything I've ever done.
Oh, nice. Very good. Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Now here we have maybe my favorite script that I've ever written. This was Ben Perkins did this one.
So this is Ben Perkins. Let's go look at. So Ben Perkins also did the werewolf transition story.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So it's quite a different look.
Yes, absolutely. We learned really hard too under that mimeograph. Maybe even more in this one than we did in the one that we worked on. You and I worked on. Yeah. So in this story here, Donna drops acid, and she's going to hang out in her apartment and listen to some records. I love the idea that there was these comics in the 60s and 70s that were really part of the rock and roll, sex, drugs, and rock and roll world, really. Like that whole sort of feeling found its way into comics, right? And not even just like talking about Zapp and Spain Rodriguez and Crumb and those guys, although they heavily function into what I'm doing here and what I'm trying to do, but also just like there was a lot of trippy Marvel comics.
Yes, there were.
There was a lot of stuff that was cosmic and weird and far out, and it wasn't really so much fanboyish for a while there. And that's kind of the thing that I want to tap into. So I like the idea that we have this character who is one of the sort of the quote unquote heroes of the book, and she's into getting high. That's something that she's doing. It's like I want her to seem like, obviously not a real person, but to go there in these types of stories, right?
Yeah. And so, she does.
She does indeed. And the deal here is that she gets that buzz on her watch, and it's a continual buzz, which tells her that there's someone who's coming to kill her. Basically, the Apocalyptico agents are on their way to do her in, and she is tripping, and it's kicking in right at the moments of impact here. So she's calling her friend for help. She loses the track, and now she's got to fight these people off while she's fully tripping balls. I love the way that the ink just saturates the living shit out of these pages.
Yes, it does.
Quite deliberate. We were like, let's try our best to just like make these pages feel just ruined and weird and whacked out and off-putting. Everything that's in Ghost Agents that one would look at and be like, whoa, I don't know how I feel about this. That was exactly what we were going for. That's what we wanted it to do. We wanted the book to hit that way. We wanted it to feel that way. We wanted it to be like the book itself is too much for the book to hold. Basically is what we were going for with this.
I would say you succeeded with that. I'm getting a little bit of a glare for some reason, but the book is not glossy one bit. It is pure
prints, and the ink, it smells like paint in a way. And people who don't even know comics, like the first thing to do is smell it, and they love it. So this was deliberate. We went from just having 2 colors on all the previous pages to this one is where we introduce more colors, right? Because we wanted to be like, she is fully in the pocket of this drug trip at this point, but she still has work to do here. And like she's imagining that she's killing these giant monsters and creatures and shadow beasts and all sorts of stuff going on. So it's wild stuff.
That's a bad trip.
Yeah. So her friend makes it over, and I always kind of have like so many of my things are kind of like written like jokes in a way. Like it's sort of like it all sort of like goes to like end on some sort of a funny little situation or something's funny to me.
Yeah.
So this guy Malone, who's her Black Panther friend, comes over and he's like, "Did you kill all these guys or something?" She's like, "Oh yeah, what took you so long?" And it's like, "It's only been 5 minutes. It's only 5 minutes ago." And she's like, "Well, I got to go." So she takes off, and this is a sort of a tribute and a nod to Guy Pillart, who did Pravda, which is a great trippy comic book that this doesn't owe a lot to, but it's definitely something that's always in the back of my head if we're talking about a big, powerful woman who rides a motorcycle.
Sure. Who did this art?
This has been Perkins.
Oh, yeah. This has been too?
Yeah, all of it's been.
Oh.
Yeah.
It looked a little different to me.
Right? So, yeah, he leaned into a lot of different things with this.
Had a guy.
Yeah, no joke. Talking about what a guy. Mizimo here.
Mizimo.
So these are pages that mean a lot to me too. This always makes me laugh. So we were in a predicament where it looked like we might be short some pages on the second issue that we were working on. We might have a problem, but I wanted to launch it so that it was coming out at the same time that we're fulfilling the previous issue. That's how we like to do these things. Capitalize on the attention that we're receiving from the previous book to launch the next one. So I text Measy and I say, "Listen, I'm in a pickle. Can you get me 4 pages by this time next week?" And he's like, "I really don't think I can. I got a lot going on. I hate to let you down." And I said, "Okay, well, so how about this? How about if you literally tell me exactly what you want to draw? And I will write a script that is exactly that. And you don't have to worry about trying to please me with anything."
Mm-hmm.
And I always remember this because I was in the tub at the time. I'm texting him. And
saucy.
Right. Yeah. How about it? Yeah. So I get out of the tub and I dry off and I get my computer and I sit down and I start to type this story with the devices that he said he wanted. He said he wanted a beautiful woman, a scientist, 2 monsters in a desert, right? And I was like,
very specific.
Right. That's what he wanted to draw.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, so I don't want to put Donna in it because I don't want to be like, being prickly about the fact that she's supposed to be 6'6" and she looks Greek. Like, I was like, so we're just going to make up a new character for this. And we'll go with all new stuff with this. And I wrote the thing in 7 minutes, sent it to him, and true to his word, less than a week later, he had these finished pages with coloring and everything. Because that's what Mizimo is. But yeah, I love these. Nothing looks like Mizimo. Just wild stuff. And this further establishes the premise of the Netherworld, monsters from the Netherworld coming into our world, into the spy-fi comic, sort of invading into what's supposed to be like a 60s cool, fashionable spy intrigue comic. These creatures come.
You really hit that in the new book that's crowdfunding right now with Metropolis, because the Ghost Agent side is very monster heavy, right? There's no subtitle to it, is there?
No, it says Ghost Agent / Metropolis.
Okay.
Because if it was Ghost Agents, Monsters from the Netherworld / Metropolis, I feel like that would be...
That's a little long.
We're already confusing people with how many books we're putting out in quick succession here. I don't want to give anybody any reason to not be able to follow what we're doing,
Well, it was funny because I think Robert Norton had me on his show or on his channel, and he was talking about, we were talking a little bit about the new book and how I drew the cover, and then I went to say the name of it, and I went, wait a minute, I don't know if there's a subtext. I should know that.
It's playing Ghost Agent / Metropolis. Yeah. And also in this book, it's all new stuff, but it's also a few of the bits and pieces from the first 3 issues that people don't have now, like the cover art is in there. There's a few pinups that we didn't reprint and Apocalyptico. So there's about like 10 pages of stuff so that it's not lost forever, because those 3 issues are gone. We're not going to deal with them anymore.
Sure.
So this is kind of like everything left over plus all this new material. It's more new material than we've ever done anywhere.
Right.
So that's
it's the biggest book yet, right?
Yes, it's 150 pages. So
Yeah.
it's a big old boy, and it'll be the last time we do this. These great big books. What I'm finding out, there's a reason that Martin Scorsese didn't make 2 movies a year. You know what I mean? Like doing these great big books, people don't do that. Independent people don't do that. It's like, what now? What? There's so many things that are always competing for all of our attentions at all times.
Yeah.
That I think it sort of does a disservice if we continue to just pump stuff out. So these 3 books are going to sit on their own for a little while.
Right. That's a good idea. Make people miss them a bit.
Right. Exactly.
So this one,
go away.
This one was interesting because you had, I had turned these in.
Yep.
These pages into you.
Right.
And then somehow you had seen from our discussions, you had seen my flats for it.
Yeah, I don't know if I had seen your flats. This is one of those things where the sequence of events will be difficult to remember the older we get. But these pages, the pages from the first story specifically, the way those are colored and the way that they were finished, was intended to go in Wizard number 2.
Right.
And initially they weren't going to be anything except for some pages of Ghost Agents material in Ghost Agents number 2, or in Wizard number 2. And then as I got to thinking, it was like, hey, light bulb, I could do an anthology comic using a lot of different artists doing what I just did with Chris, especially because Chris is someone who people look at and say, oh, if Chris did it, then I could do it. I should do it. It's cool to do. So Wizard took longer to come out than we thought it would. So it was going to be to promote the first issue of Ghost Agents in a way, right? But not actually being Ghost Agents, because I always want to give value. I don't want to have repetition of just the same thing. So that was what that was. And then we get into making Ghost Agents 2, and it was clear that Wizard 2 was a long way off. It wasn't going to come out anytime soon. So it's like, okay, well, let's go ahead and put these pages in Ghost Agents 2 then. We've got them. They're cool. They really well establish the premise of the book, that Ghost Agents is fighting Apocalyptico, this like Hydra, Spectre type entity, Cobra type entity. So it's like, yeah, let's do that. But then when it came time for Wizard 2 to actually come out, I thought, wow, I really like the way that flats look. I like the way that art looks with the pencils taken out of it and just let the blob of colors do the talking for you.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what it was called. I just knew that it was part of the process. And I think I asked you, like, what is it called when you see the art and it's just the colors with none of the pencils, none of the lines, it's just colors?
Yeah.
And you were like, do you mean flats? And I said, yeah, I really like the way that looks. Why don't we do that with that Donna story that you did, and we'll put that in Wizard 2. And what I hadn't fully reckoned with was that I was asking you as a penciler primarily to remove your pencils from your own work. Right?
No, I'm a storyteller.
Right. You didn't push back at all, but it was sort of like, oh, wow, I kind of feel like a dick when I sort of contemplated.
Nope, not at all.
Oh, yeah. But I think these really work like this. And these are some of my favorite pages ever. The first page there, I have that framed on the wall in my bedroom. It's one of the first things I see when I wake up every day.
That one there?
That's the one.
Yeah.
And then I also have that original art. This is kind of my Ghost Agents corner. You can see right there, that's the original art from that
Oh,
page.
yeah. There it is.
This to me is like, it means a lot to me. It's the first finished Ghost Agents page. Everything we've done sort of comes from that in a very big way, or very real way. So it's something I really dig. But I love these pages. And I also love the way that the a bit of the following page after this bleeds into this one, right? That's
Yeah,
something
you can see through it into
I
that.
dig
Yeah.
that, and then a lot of people maybe don't. I was a little bit scared, but then when it came out, people were fully like, "This is part of what it is. This is what it is." When you go see a real
Absolutely.
movie, there's grain on the screen. You can see the circle when it was the signal for the
Time to change the reel.
alchemist to change the reel. Like it's
Yep.
right in there too. It's some of the things that make this feel real. And something I'm fond of saying is that perfection is for dweebs, right? Like being
Well,
obsessed over getting it exactly right.
it
Uh,
also doesn't exist, so I could pick
that's
apart the most
also
perfect thing anybody has ever put out. So,
that's very true. Yeah. So all
um,
that adds to the vibe, I feel like.
yeah, and this one also really feels like a piece of pop art.
Yeah, that's what I'm
You
all
know?
about. I think of everything, I think of all modern art, or a lot of modern art, a lot more than maybe most people do, is being pop art, right?
Yeah,
I think comics are pop art. Like
they
I
are.
feel like the idea that Warhol was somehow above the cans is not accurate. The cans are art. I think that was what the point of all that was, is that
Right.
advertising commercial art, that is popular art. It's pop art.
Yeah.
And it's for all of us. Art is anything you can get away with, is the big Warhol quote. So I feel like any comic is pop art. And I feel like ours maybe is just a little bit more zoomed in on thinking of it like aesthetes, more like appreciate people who appreciate art, and less just like fans, is sort
Sure.
of the extent of what we're doing here, I feel like.
Yeah. I like the deconstructionist and behind the scenes sort of elements to it too.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's funny because as I've sold ghost agents to a lot of people who might not otherwise care or be interested in art. Just yesterday at the UPS store, I sold 3 ghost agents books totally accidentally, because I was taking in a piece of art to have it scanned to go into Metropolis, Ghost Agents Metropolis. And the girl who worked there was like, "What is this for?" And I was like, "It's for a comic book that I write and produce. Do you want to see it?" And I brought it in and showed it to her, and she bought it, $20. Hand me the bill. And then some guy who just happened to be there also was like, "Hey, that's cool. Can I buy one of those too?" It's like, whenever anybody that's not into comics is like, "I don't really know comics. I don't understand comics," because comics have become so Byzantine that they're like impenetrable to the regular person.
Sure.
And what I always say is just look at it. Does it look like good art to you? Does it move you in some way? Does it trigger your imagination? If the answer is yes, then you like this. That's all
Yeah.
there is to it. It's not a matter of you don't understand it well enough. And it's an unfortunate thing that's happened with all kinds of art, that people go to art museums, or they don't, because they feel like they're intimidated, because it's like they have to have a degree or something. When you look at the art, it triggers something inside of you, right? Like Pollock said, of his paintings, nobody ever asked the deeper meaning of a flower bed. It just is what it is. When you look at
Sure.
it, you feel something. That's all you need. Don't let anybody ever tell you that that's not enough.
Yeah, and you brought it to them. The accessibility was that they were just standing in a line and it was there. It's
Yeah,
funny. I always had the idea to go to a convention that maybe I didn't get a table to. It was too late to sign up for or something, and cosplay as a artist alley artist, and have like a little like a cigarette girl table
yeah,
strapped to myself and like a banner sticking out of my back, and
yeah,
walk around and be a mobile artist alley, like
yeah.
bootleg it.
It
And
might
it'd be
work.
funny now that you said that about the UPS store. It'd be funny just to bring that out of the convention and into the real world and just walk around that way for a
Yeah, to
day.
see what happens. Well, like Banksy, and this was over in October, I think, like 4 or 5 years ago. He had a New York residency. Remember that? And I mean, it was like the
Yeah,
joke. Like every day, he was like doing stunts, or whoever
yeah,
Banksy group of people, whatever it is. Um, the people who are Banksy, I believe it's more than one person, set up in Central Park one day, and were selling original Banksy art to just passerbys for like $20, $40.
yeah.
Things that art collectors and those types of people would gladly pay $250,000 or more for the things that people are buying for like $30, $40, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is sort of the accessibility. And it used to be something, obviously comics used to be on spinner racks and you could buy them any place, you know, and it was a kind of art that people found very accessible, kids mostly, obviously, but also like a lot of EC books like appeal to adults and stuff. So I don't know, it's an unfortunate thing that we've lost, and I hope that with books like this, we can try to sort of get that back even a little bit.
I think it's possible. There's a way. I just don't think that it's going to happen overnight.
No. And that's sort of the thing with Ghost Agents, man. We just keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
Yep. So we go to another Barry Tan story here, yeah?
Yeah, Barry Tan, man. Fantastic. And I kind of did Barry wrong in this one because I gave him relatively boring pages. All of this is exposition type stuff. As I say this as we look at a panel of or a page of Donna punching this guy in the mouth.
So boring.
But yeah, right. My original plan was that this was going to be serialized and it was going to go on for a while. This particular story, and then Barry told me that he wasn't really into doing that much work and that quick succession of pages, you know,
right?
Pages, which I totally respect and understand.
Well, he's in like finance or something. He's got like an adult day job.
Yeah, he's a real job kind of a dude. I think he's doing this for fun, and I mean, like, hey, I don't pay you guys as much as I would like to. It's $100 page rate. It's all I can afford. I don't get paid from this, which is fine with me.
Right.
But the transition rate over to Singapore money is pretty good. It's like you know, each page is like something like 400 Singaporean dollars. But even so, he doesn't want to just do pages and pages, stuff, which I fully respect and understand.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the time to do it.
Right. So really, I should have clarified that with him beforehand. But what we had to do was figure out a way to get out of the story and to come up with kind of a quick resolution for all the stuff that I was going to do. And I am a bit guilty of making this stuff up as I go along. So this is another case of Chris Anderson to the rescue here. And what we did I always hate it when there's a book where it's an artist and it's a great artist who has a particular style, and they're doing a storyline. It's a whole story, and then they drop out, and then somebody else takes over, right? Batman Year 2 is ruined by that for me because it starts off with Alan Davis, one of my all-time favorites, and then you get Todd McFarlane, who I'm not really particularly a big fan of, but he's especially rough following Davis and trying to tell
a weird
story
matchup,
right? And then the other one like that for me is Infinity Gauntlet, which you start out with George Perez back at Marvel, you know, to do Marvel's Crisis basically, and then Ron Lim takes over. You know, it's rough, and it's just a rough position for anybody to be in. So I didn't want that to happen with this, and I didn't want you to be in this predicament. So the way that we switched this and put it on its head was that we go back in time and we refocus in on this Adelaide character and show her origin, and then that's all you. So that way your stuff gets to be separate from Barry's. And Barry, I was like, can you draw 3 or 4 panels for me? And luckily he was able to do that. So that was how we kind of figured this thing out.
So Barry works digitally. And not that you would be able to tell as a layman kind of coming into it, but you know, as an artist who does this every day, I can tell the lines are just really crisp and smooth. And so I went and I also did this one digitally,
Smart.
Which I rarely do.
Yeah.
But it kind of marries them together in a way.
Yeah. That's smart. That's good thinking. Yeah. I feel like you pulled this.
Yeah.
Barry tends to use blues, and he likes to lean into the blues and whites. And then your stuff, I asked that you go into yellows and reds, so that way it also felt like we're doing a flashback. You know, this is different. You know, I always talk about Wizard of Oz and black and white versus color and that sort of thing. So like this way, even if somebody's not paying really close attention to what they're reading, they still get that sensibility. And we were so focused on trying to get that aspect right that you accidentally drew the wrong guy
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember.
Triangle here. This is you drew the guy who is like the head of the station chief of Ghost when this is supposed to be the neo-Nazi. And this is my fault because I said just draw this guy without giving a lot of clarification. So the version that came out in I think issue 3 of Ghost Agents had the wrong guy. And it was actually John Burkett that was like, is this supposed to be, who is that? Why is this guy? And oh shit, that was when I realized. And luckily it was in time to fix it for this. And it was like, okay, just draw the guy bald.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the beauties of working digitally is that you can make those changes.
Yeah.
You know, if I had done it by hand, it would have been a different story. I would have actually had to go in and then digitally change it.
Yikes.
And then try to match the digital art with my traditional art to make it look right.
Right.
Sometimes it succeeds. I had to do that actually just yesterday for a project, but sometimes it does not.
Yeah.
At all.
This worked well enough, I think. I mean, with the bald head, his facial structure still looks like the other guy. But it's like anybody who doesn't make shit, who sits at home and is like, oh, they did this in this movie or this comic had this. It's like, don't they even care? They don't even care. What a bunch of jerks. They can't even get that right. This sucks.
Yeah.
You know, screw you, buddy. Because it's like the amount of work that goes into these types of things. That's how this happens. And you have to come up with a way to fix it to the best of your ability, you know?
Yeah, there's a million reasons.
You know,
nobody sets out to do that. Nobody sets out to do that, and it's not.
And nobody is like asleep at the wheel. It's just kind of a matter of like we got a lot going on here. You know, there's a lot going on. It's any comic book that comes out is a miracle. It's a miracle.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then we roll right into another Chris Anderson page. I feel like I drew like half of this book.
Good chunk, man. A good chunk.
These 4 stories in it. You know.
Yeah. A good chunk, man. You were right on the spot with this stuff, man. I mean, it was cool. And this is sort of a similar story where we see Donna doing some adventurous stuff and fighting against the Apocalyptico guys. Yeah, this is funny. I also like this because she's recreationally drinking, you know, similar to the acid drop earlier. It's like this is a character who does those types of things, you know.
Yep.
That's the idea. So this was I had just seen where there was this guy, this Red Bull promotion where there was this guy who got like as high up into the atmosphere as possible to the he was in a satellite essentially.
Yeah.
And he just jumped out of it through the atmosphere of Earth, like he was wearing the right stuff to do it, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was like the longest anybody has ever jumped. So I wanted to do that here with this. And you know, pretty wild. I love these pages too, man. Just high adventure going on here.
Yeah, these were a lot of fun. This got made into a poster for the campaign, I remember.
It did, yeah. We sold
2 different versions.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, she's landed on this driggable and poking a hole in it and then kicking her way down. Yeah, I love this. This is one of those deals where it's like the way that I pictured this happening was much different than what comes back. It's always kind of like it's like a baby in a way. It's like you and this person have created something, and it's both of you had input.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and I'm always very excited what comes back. But that page with the bangs, I expected that to be 6 equal-sized panels on each page, and then you did something that's much more claustrophobic and communicates the scariness of the situation, you know, of this whole deal, you know. I always want the violence in this book to look pretty real's not the word, but I want it to be like, oh, like I never wanted to be like the violence of it. I feel like should be presented as gory and disturbing as violence is.
Yeah. You know, usually an artist will draw a large scale and then that gets shrunk down. And what that does is it hides a lot of the flaws and the blemishes. It tightens things up. This I did the exact opposite way.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with this at all.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm not going to say there isn't, but there's plenty because there's plenty. But in my, you know, just because I drew it from my point of view. But
sure,
I definitely drew it on like an 8.5 by 11 size paper, like printer paper, but you know, like a harder printer paper, and then blew it up.
Right.
And did it really kind of loosely, like my panel board. I didn't use any rulers. I don't use rulers anyway, but I'll use rulers on panel borders.
Yeah.
But I didn't even use rulers on the panel borders here.
You know what, dude? I mean, I think what you're talking about here, you know, because it's similar to like the Marvel treasuries, which are the thing that made me want to do this. But you know, they were almost always reprints of books that were, you know, published elsewhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
In a small format.
Yeah.
And you get that with these too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, especially when they would redo like, you know, 60s Jack Kirby comics. And, you know, you see like, you know, that dude was doing so much at once at all times. But like, to me, that's part of it. Anything that's like an imperfection is perfect in the way that it is.
No, exactly. There's what it did is it injected another form of energy into the pages, I think.
Right. Yeah.
The lines are thicker, and yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I love it. So here's some interesting stuff here too. John Burkett here. This was in the second issue of Ghost Agents.
Yeah.
And he did a Bruce Lee bit that was based on Super Tiger, the same character that we kind of created. Craig and I. There was Jack Kirby had done a Bruce Lee type character in Phantom Force, and we kind of just made him more Bruce Lee. And I've always been really into Shang-Chi, or I have been the last 20 years of my life or so. And I wanted it to be like sort of that kind of a vibe. So John did a story with somebody else, I forget who, featuring that character, and I wanted him to do that in Ghost Agents. I wanted to get Bruce Lee type Shang-Chi character into Ghost Agents. So I saw his work, and I asked him if he would work with us, and he said yes, more or less. And I asked him what he wanted to draw. He wasn't familiar with Ghost Agents at all. He hadn't seen the first issue, I guess. So he was like, I want to do a space station in the future, and I want to do people that look like they would be hanging out at a state fair, and I want there to be like kind of a heist, I think was one of the things that he said. Totally not Ghost Agents.
Okay.
And I had this sort of pivotal moment where it was like, okay, so I can either be like, sorry, buddy, you got to keep it within the realm of 60s and 70s spy fiction, which you might not want to do at all.
Right.
Or I could just say, okay, let's find a way to make that Ghost Agents. Let's find a way to make that part and parcel of this whole Ghost Agents world that we're building, and just blow the doors off of what Ghost Agents is and make it a whole timeline into the future, the past, what have you. And that was the option that I chose. So this was the script that I wrote about a space station deep in the future.
He knocked it out of the park. I love this sort of Wally-Wood, the Spirit-esque moon. You know?
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because Hollywood Spirit Stories was the spirit went to the moon. So yeah, it's interesting that you say that. Yeah, it's Wally-Woodish, it's Woodian. It's also got heavy metal type feelings to it.
Oh yeah,
yeah, right. The sorry to bring up any bad feelings for you.
It's all good.
Yeah, this was the first story in issue 2. And what I could already see happening was that there was a lot of like, well, I can't get issue 2 if I can't get issue 1, and we were almost out of issue 1, and it was becoming a whole thing. So I wanted to almost punish people for expecting to buy a comic that was going to be more of the same, right? I wanted to make it so that it was going to be, we're wide open here. So it's only really kind of at the end here that you have a ghost type character turn up, but he's very different from previous Ghost Agents we've seen.
Yeah.
I just went full into making this its own thing.
Brilliant.
And then as a result of that, he said, okay, well, let's first address this. This is Dave Grom. A lot of people aren't hip to this, but these pinups, that's Clutch Quarterman. That's the same dude who jumped into the Netherworld in Adam's story, who first appeared in Barry's first story.
Oh, okay.
Every time you see these pinups, this is meant to be Clutch Quartermain floating through the Netherworld, encountering crazy shit. Right?
Yeah.
So pinup wise, when I talk to someone about a pinup they could do, I'm always like, okay, draw this guy and then draw weird shit. leave it up to you what that is. The netherworld is up to you. In this corner that Clutch is falling through.
Love it.
That's why that's like it is. So here's the Bruce Lee style story that I got out of Burkett as a result of him doing the space story. And the idea here is that this picks up pretty much directly after Enter the Dragon.
Okay.
But our version of this guy lives in our world, so he goes and meditates, and he has this sort of premonition of meeting a monster, right? And that was the point of this story. The scars that this Lee character has are meant to be evocative of a familiar sight.
Sure.
Right. It's sort of like he's not really meant to be Bruce Lee. He's meant to be like one of the many Bruce Lee knockoffs.
Yes.
Of which there were many, many, many.
One or two.
Yeah, a lot of them. And I'm very happy with how that story turned out. Chris Faison here did this one. This is another future story. This is an entity who is supposed to mimic Elvis. I had thought that Chris Faison would use his sort of photorealistic style in this and draw a guy who looked like Elvis, like exactly like Elvis. He didn't do that. I like what he did, but it's different from what I thought it would be and what I expected it to be. But as always, we just kind of roll with it. This is an art forward book, as has been observed, and the artist gets to drive the bus, as far as I'm concerned. That's what it's all about. So yeah, another future story here.
That's cool. So from Burkett's suggestion, you just ran with it, and now there's more stories going into it.
Yeah, right. And Faison was very much just like, hey, whatever you want to do, man.
Cool.
You know, whatever you think is going to be the thing that'll float your boat, you know, go with it. So we just really leaned into that all the way. Here's another Quartermain floating through the netherworld, encountering horror after horror. This one's by Dave Pretorius, who did a great job with this.
Love it.
I give Dave a full script because I know that he can do it.
We got a spread here. That's sideways, and I would turn it, but I don't think it's gonna. Well,
so this is Danny Nicholas is the guy that did these, and I first saw him on the internet as well. He did a Ghostbusters newspaper strip as if it would have run in the 80s. And Al Williamsoned out. They're black and white. And I was like, man, these are cool. I really like this. And I've long wanted to sort of lean into that comic strip sort of vibe. So I came up with these stories featuring these two guys. And these are the same two guys that are in the Barry Tan story that you worked on. That's an American agent and a Russian agent.
Gotcha.
So we were sort of intending to do these as that sort of newspaper strip thing. I think Danny got a little weary of doing it that way.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, can we mix them up? And I was like, sure. I can't think of any reason not to do that. So we went ahead and went a little wild with the presentation of these. It is colored by Peter Hensel, and I told Peter to just really go wild with it. So this is not meant to be, you know, a literally colored story. Maybe.
Sure.
So I really like what he did here. It feels like outsider art. It feels like Danny's art is very conventional, you know, that very mannered sort of Al Williamson style. And then the coloring is like totally bonkers and gonzo. And I love this combination. I think it's very cool.
Yeah.
Never seen anything that looks like this. Miguel Galindo, man, great artist. Total absolute accident getting this guy. I had posted some bootleg Mexican toys on the internet, on Facebook. He responded that he would be interested in buying a set. I didn't want to sell it. My friend who does them, I wasn't sure because the guy is also from Mexico City. So I was like, hell, this could be, you know, Interpol or a bust or something. Seemed unlikely, but a possibility. I gave it a couple days to think about it, and I was like, you know, this guy's probably fine. So I went ahead and wrote him a message and said, hey, if you're still interested in talking about that thing that I posted about, we can talk. And he was like, "Are you trying to hire an artist? Because I do art." And he hadn't heard of ghost agents or any of this stuff. And I was like, "Wouldn't it be interesting if this guy ended up being really good?" And I was like, "Let's get some samples of your work." And he had done these Blue Demon comics, like the wrestler, the Blue Demon.
Yeah.
And it was like, what the fuck? Like, how is this possible? And just so good. So we got him in Ghost Agents, man. We lined it up.
Yeah, this guy could easily be in a big 2 book for sure.
Yeah, no kidding, right? And I mean, that's so many of these people, and you, and just so many of the people that we know and work with, is that it's just all they're missing is the eyes on their work, man. This guy could do a Wonder Woman comic, starting.
Oh, in a second. In a
Yeah.
second. Look at that face.
Yeah.
Look at this robot is amazing. I love it.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, very George Perezian. So here we have Mizimo again.
He's back.
We see where Lee is. The mission he had been sent on. He was sent on by Ghost, and it went sideways, and awful things happened, and he doesn't want to do that again. So when they come to try to get him to do something else, he's like, "I really am not interested in your games of death and deceit." And they tell him this time he's not going to have to kill any humans. It's all going to be monsters from hell. So he takes him up on it. This the woman character there was meant to be Anna Venture, was meant to literally be the same woman that Mizimo had drawn in the monster story, and he forgot what that character looked like.
Oh.
So he invented a new character. So it's like, well, okay, we're just going to make her Anna Venture then.
Okay.
No,
I love how he does the pencil backgrounds on this. It feels, I mean, it's not, but it feels like a great device to use for a flashback or something.
Yeah. We'll have to keep that in mind. Yeah. Very cool. Very cartoony, which is fun. Like, I didn't write this necessarily with that vibe in mind, but it's him, of course. So
that is him.
Yeah, that's why
he is a caricature artist. Yeah.
That's how he works so quickly, So yeah, just a totally wild story here, man. Such fun pages.
Yeah, his work is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, usually when somebody draws that fast, they're, a Darwin Cook type or something, or a Toad.
Yeah, he's got his own thing going on.
Or a few lines. Like this guy, like everything is really detailed and cross-hatched, and I mean, he goes in on this stuff.
Oh yeah. And he's drawing just constantly, not even just for work, just sitting, sitting at the bar, having a beer, drawing.
Yeah. Nonstop.
I need a break once in a while. I think he just does it, not constantly. He probably draws and drives.
Well, I hope he's careful. So it's the May Zero again here. Just so much fun. So the last line of the book I like being, "What the hell just happened?" Kung Fu monk character,
Yeah.
And then Rick Lopez, my friend and yours. He's sold many, many copies of these. He
has. He knocked it out of the park with that.
It's very, very cool. It's a the literal biblical angel, and here we see Clutch Quartermain again. Is he in heaven or hell? Where is he? It's hard to say. So Tony Farrow, who I don't even know if he knows he's in this book. I saw that. I'm trying to remember what happened here. I think maybe he was. I might be totally wrong about this and misremembering it, but I think I had saw that he was posting on Facebook and saying that he was going to do drawings for $50. And I said, "I'll give you 100 if you do a Ghost Agents thing," and have this guy, Clutch Quartermain, encountering weird shit,
Yeah.
And he did this, and we got it in just under the wire. So this is only in this book. It wasn't in the original 3 issues. And I got him his $100. And again, I don't know if he even knows.
That's so funny.
Yeah, he's never acknowledged it, which is
him. I love Tony's work.
Me too. It's very, very cool, and it's perfect for that.
Yeah.
You know,
He's got, it's hard to tell in this image, but because you can't really see any faces or anything. But he's got a very like Kirby energy, but then it's also like with the colors and everything, it's also like tagging artwork or like whatever it's called, and like but he's got his own thing going on. It's really cool style.
I get that. Yeah, that looks like Kirby tech up at the top, even.
Yep. He's kind of got Kirby tech and into this just like nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
A
lot of this, I mean, I set out to write a spy-fi comic.
Mm-hmm.
The 60s, 70s feeling spy-fi comic with like some trippy elements. And then it ended up just being the people that I wanted to work with were into doing this. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to go there. I really don't like it when you look at a comic and you can tell that the writer just exerted a lot of control, just a lot of dense text, and just you could tell that the writer, their force of will was so strong. Like, I don't think of artists as being something I hire. It's not like I hire you guys to do this.
Yeah.
I want to work with you guys. I want you guys to feel inspired to do good work and to feel like it's you more than me that makes these things work. Like that's a really big deal for me. I want to like just give initiative and give a lot of agency, so to speak, to all the artists that I work with to just do whatever it is that they feel like doing within reason.
Yeah, I think that the work ends up being more successful when you take that approach visually, and it's not as stunted or just dreary and dead, because that is kind of the artist's role, is to visually tell what you wrote on the paper. And if you're indicating every little thing that has nothing to do with anything that's sitting on a table in the background, I've had scripts like that. Usually they're from people who work in the film industry.
Yeah.
They're trying to give me
kind of ironic, right?
Yeah, and it's really funny, but I'm like, none of this has to do with anything. I mean, I will definitely be adding things, to make it feel like a lived-in world, but it doesn't need to be specific things unless it drives the story.
Yeah.
And there was only one project I ever had where I finished it. It was a pitch document, so it was like 6 or 7 pages, and I was just crossing my fingers that thing was not going to get picked up, and it didn't get picked up. Wow. And I don't think it was because of me.
Yeah. Well, I totally got it, man.
Yeah. So here's the list of all the contributors. I mean,
it's in order of appearance. I think we got it.
Where to find them all for this.
Hopefully Instagram is around for long enough that this page isn't at some point in coming years like, Instagram, geez, remember that?
Yeah, that's a thing. Got to have a couple points of contact on here.
Yeah. Ken Landgraf. Amazing. The first comic I ever bought off a spinner rack was the Wolverine Hulk reprints that had the backup with Hulk or Hercules and Wolverine no, wait a minute. Yeah, that is right. Hulk Wolverine was the first appearance of Wolverine. And then it had this backup story that I don't think was printed again, where Hercules and Wolverine have a bar fight. And it was Landgraf, inked by George Perez, which is interesting.
Wow. That's and
it's great. I mean, it's got a lot of great energy, that story. It was one of the first comic stories I ever read. You can get Landgraf off eBay to draw you whatever. And we got Mizimo to color these. One, because I knew it was fast, and two, I knew he would go wild with it. And I think Landgraf wanted me to write him a script, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to tell him what to do. I wanted to see what he would do. This is kind of a little bit against sort of the mission statement of Ghost Agents, which is that I want it to always be like the Saturday Night Live of comics, like up and coming comics, like territory wrestling kind of a deal. So to have a name brand guy, or a well-established guy in the book is kind of a little bit different from what we usually do. But I felt like
like Saturday Night Live has a host that's a celebrity.
There you go. So that was kind of, I guess, the idea with this, because we had the opportunity to work with Landgraf, and it was just too delicious for me not to. And these pages were also not in Ghost Agents 1 through 3. These are exclusive
Right.
to the big Apocalyptico book here.
It was funny. I did an issue of a book called Revealer, that was a companion to a movie that came out on Shudder, and it sort of lived in the world of that movie. And it was me. There was another artist, I think, in it, and then the third artist was Ken Landgraf.
Oh wow!
And it
Good
came
for him.
out on the same day that this came out.
Oh wow!
So on that one day, Ken Landgraf and I both had 2 releases in the same book. It was
Oh
pretty
man,
funny.
that's pretty
Like,
cool.
how does that work out?
That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild.
Did I look at the? Oh no, here's that very last page
Yeah.
is a double.
Now
Of
this,
Great
yeah,
Time.
and I wanted these 2 pieces to be next to each other in different colors. And as a friend of mine who is not really into comics observed, he was like, "This is art. Like this is
Yep.
having these 2 images side by side aspires to more than just let's make a comic book. Like we're trying to make something that will feel like art and stimulate the brain and communicate ideas, feel beautiful, that sort of thing."
Yeah. And then back to Sam J. Royals. So right now, the only way to get this is through the Kickstarter campaign that is happening at this moment.
That's true. That's true. And then after this,
Apocalyptico, Crimson Reckoning, and the new one is / Metropolis.
Yep, Ghost Agent / Metropolis. And this will be your last chance to get the Treasury size book online. After this, it will be a trade paperback offered by a different company.
Okay. All right. Well, where can everybody find you? I'm going to put everything in the show notes, but
yeah, ghostagents.net will take you to the new Kickstarter. You'll be able to see a little bit of the art there. Well, the art, there's art on both those pages, obviously. But that's the thing we're doing right now, and it's sort of evergreen. Whatever is going on with Ghost Agents, you want to see what it is, what we got going on, ghostagents.net is always your source for that. It's sort of a junky WordPress page that's kind of deliberate. I just got the cheapest page I could, and the easiest page for me to manage because I'm not a wizard of any of that sort of stuff.
Sure.
And it's designed to just get you where you need to go with all things Ghost Agents at any given time. So whenever you watch this, whenever anybody is watching this, ghostagents.net, that's where you go.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks, Rocko. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking about this. This is a cool flip.
Thank you. It's awesome. It's great to be able to talk to you at length. We don't get to do this all that often.
Yeah, it's true.
And thank you so much for everything you've done and all the time I've known you, but most especially with Ghost Agents.
Oh, Rocko. No problem. Anytime. And thank you for, asking me to do this and, letting me keep playing the world. So, listen, people, get it now. And Rocko, we will talk to you later.
Absolutely, man.
All right,
Thanks
later.
so much.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my Patreon, where at the $3 level, I'll send you my sketchbook, The Sketch of the Masters, and at the $5 level, I'll send you the sketchbook, plus my mini stories, not Man nor Beast, but Moss, Stench of the Sea, and The Voyeur. At the $8 level, after a year, you'll get a commission. Don't forget to sign up for my newsletter in the show notes. Check out my store, where I have lots of original art. And you can also buy books like Lost Angels, a sci-fi YA adventure about a girl who has to solve a mystery in a crashed alien city. Spectral, a showcase of fear, is about a sinister puppet master who travels from town to town telling tales to children who may never sleep again. You can request a commission at any time just by contacting me. Here is a list of the upcoming conventions that I'll be at the time that this video was released. And don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the video. Again, thanks for watching.